Have you ever been in a situation where you realize someone wasn't who they claimed to be? Shocking, isn't it? The truth, when revealed, acts like a mirror, reflecting the true essence of these individuals, and the reactions that follow can be just as disturbing as they are revealing. It's not just uncomfortable to notice this, it's a crucial moment to protect your peace of mind and emotional well-being. Today, I'm going to show you something that few people talk about, but everyone should know. The 7 warning signs of how evil people react when you discover the truth about them. Stick with me until the end, because the last sign will completely change the way you handle these situations. Let's go. They defensively accuse you. Evil people are toxic, and their reaction when confronted is almost automatic. They go on the attack. Instead of reflecting on what's being said or taking any responsibility, they shift the blame onto you. This defensive tactic is designed to divert attention away from their own mistakes while making you feel guilty. The goal is to distort the conversation, pulling the focus away from what truly matters, their behavior. But this defensive reaction is more than just emotional. It's a calculated strategy. Imagine you call someone out about a lie you discovered, something clear, with undeniable proof. Instead of owning up to it, they immediately twist the narrative. Suddenly, the issue isn't their actions, but the fact that you're too distrustful or making things up. Worse yet, they might bring up your supposed faults, saying things like, "You always act like this," trying to control everything, or "You're not perfect, you know." These individuals create a climate of conflict that leaves you questioning whether you're being fair, or worse, whether you even have the right to confront them at all. This kind of attack isn't just frustrating, it's draining. It can leave you emotionally exhausted, even convincing you to drop the confrontation altogether, which is exactly what they want. After all, when you back down or retreat, they maintain control of the situation and avoid facing the consequences of their actions. Recognizing this behavior is crucial to avoiding the manipulation cycle. So, what can you do? The first step is to identify the pattern. When the conversation starts turning against you, it's a clear sign they're trying to dodge responsibility. Stay focused. Use phrases like, "This isn't about what I did, it's about what's happening here." By doing so, you not only break the manipulation cycle, but also reaffirm your stance. Remember, confronting a toxic person doesn't have to be an emotional battlefield. Recognizing this diversion tactic and holding your ground is key to ensuring you don't get dragged into their game. They minimize the situation. One of the most common and frustrating behaviors of evil people when confronted is their attempt to downplay what happened. This strategy is designed to diminish the situation and, most importantly, invalidate your feelings. Phrases like, "It's not that serious," or "Why are you making such a big deal out of something so small?" are their go-to tools to make you doubt the validity of your concerns. The goal? To make you question whether you're being reasonable or worse, if the problem even exists in the first place. Picture this. You discover they lied or behaved inappropriately, and you're preparing to address it, already feeling a bit unsure of how to approach the conversation. Their first response? Something like, "Wow, you're really upset about this?" Or, "I didn't realize this was such a big deal to you." At first glance, these remarks may seem harmless, but they're actually calculated attempts to shift the conversation into a space where you feel like you're overreacting or being overly sensitive. Once you start doubting the legitimacy of your emotions, you lose momentum in the confrontation, exactly what they're aiming for. This tactic of minimizing the situation is dangerous because it creates an atmosphere of emotional invalidation. People of bad character know that if they can convince you the issue is insignificant, you're likely to drop it or avoid digging deeper. This allows them to escape accountability without ever having to admit any wrongdoing or face the consequences of their actions. What makes this approach even more insidious is the tone that often accompanies it. Calm and almost condescending, as if you're the irrational one in the conversation. This subtle condescension reinforces the idea that you're wrong for caring about the issue, further eroding your confidence in your own perspective. But here's the truth. If something bothers you, it's important. No matter how much someone tries to downplay the problem, your feelings should never be invalidated. Recognizing this tactic is essential to avoiding their emotional game. When you notice someone trying to minimize a situation, stay firm. A helpful strategy is to bring the focus back to the facts. Instead of engaging in a debate about the importance of the issue, reaffirm what happened by saying, "The point isn't whether this seems big or small to you, but that it has significantly affected me." At the end of the day, minimizing the situation is just another attempt to control the narrative and evade responsibility. Recognize it for the red flag it is, and most importantly, trust your instincts. Your emotions don't need validation from anyone, especially not from someone trying to manipulate them. They react with anger or aggressiveness. People of bad character often use anger as their first line of defense. This angry response doesn't come from genuine hurt or injustice. It's because they feel they've lost control of the situation. For them, anger is a powerful tool used to intimidate, shift focus, and force you to back down. This aggression can range from open outbursts like yelling or name-calling to more subtle behaviors, such as passive-aggressive remarks filled with sarcasm or disdain. Picture this. You raise a legitimate concern about something they did wrong. Their response? Something like, "You have no idea what you're talking about," or "You're ruining everything with these ridiculous accusations." These phrases are not mere expressions of frustration. They're deliberate attempts to silence you. The more intense their reaction, the more likely you are to hesitate and question yourself. Did I overreact? This is exactly what they want. To regain control of the situation by shifting the focus away from their actions and onto your reaction. Aggression can also take less obvious forms. Sarcastic comments, dismissive glances, or even cold intentional silence are strategies designed to create emotional discomfort. These subtler responses serve as emotional punishments. While explosive anger may scare you, passive aggressiveness breeds guilt or insecurity. Both methods share the same goal: to push you into a position where you'd rather drop the issue than continue confronting their aggressive behavior. What makes this tactic so effective is its ability to prey on the emotions of the person confronting them. Anger can be intimidating, especially if you're not emotionally prepared to handle such a reaction. Additionally, it can create a guilt cycle where you start questioning whether you caused the outburst or approached the situation incorrectly. It's important to remember that these disproportionate reactions aren't about you. They're a reflection of the discomfort the bad person feels when faced with the truth. So how can you handle this behavior? The key is to stay calm and avoid responding to aggression with more aggression. This doesn't mean passively accepting the situation, but instead standing firm and rational. By demonstrating that you won't be intimidated yet refuse to engage in their emotional game, you take control of the situation. Observe how this person handles their anger after the initial outburst. A person of bad character will continue to use aggression as a weapon, showing that it's a deliberate tactic rather than a fleeting emotional reaction. Recognizing this pattern is essential for protecting your emotional well-being and setting clear boundaries. If you notice that explosive anger or passive-aggressive behaviors are recurring responses from someone close to you, take it as a serious red flag. This isn't just an uncontrolled emotional reaction. It's a calculated attempt to manipulate you. Recognizing and addressing this behavior is a crucial step in maintaining your mental health and emotional stability. They use emotions to manipulate you. When confronted, evil people often resort to a tactic that might seem surprising: manipulating your emotions. They know that by displaying apparent vulnerability, they can shift the focus away from their mistakes while putting you in the position of either feeling guilty or becoming their savior. This emotional tactic isn't just an impulsive reaction. It's a calculated approach to regain control of the situation. For example, you bring up something they did wrong, something concrete and undeniable. How do they react? They might start crying, play the victim, or even turn the situation against you. These behaviors give the appearance of vulnerability, but are, in fact, used to manipulate you. The goal is clear: to stir your empathy, distract you from the original issue, and, if possible, make you feel guilty for even addressing the matter. This kind of manipulation is particularly effective because it exploits something inherent in most people: the tendency to want to help or alleviate someone's suffering. When people of bad character assume the role of the victim, they divert attention from their actions and redirect it toward their feelings. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about what they did wrong, but about how much they are hurting. If you're not careful, you could end up consoling someone who should actually be taking responsibility. Another aspect of this emotional manipulation is blame reversal. They often make accusations that, while baseless, serve one purpose: to make you feel guilty for standing your ground. In the end, this guilt might lead you to back down, leaving the issue unresolved, exactly as they intended. It's also essential to watch for patterns. Emotional manipulation often becomes a recurring strategy for evil people because it's highly effective, especially when dealing with empathetic or emotionally open individuals. Recognizing this repetition is critical to avoid falling into the same trap repeatedly. Finally, and most importantly, remember, your emotions matter too. You're not insensitive or cruel for expecting someone to take responsibility for their actions. Don't let tears or accusations of lack of empathy distract you from addressing what truly needs to be resolved. Emotional manipulation is a clear sign of toxic behavior and a deliberate attempt to keep you under control. Recognizing this tactic is the first step to breaking free from their influence and maintaining your emotional boundaries. They cut ties or distance themselves. When all other manipulation strategies fail, evil people often resort to a drastic move, cutting ties or distancing themselves. This withdrawal isn't a genuine effort to reflect or take space. It's a calculated tactic meant to silently punish you while reasserting control over the situation. At first, this behavior might feel like a relief, but over time, it starts to create doubt and insecurity, leaving you confused about what actually happened. You may have experienced this with someone before. Imagine confronting a person, and instead of taking responsibility or trying to resolve the issue, they simply vanish. They stop replying to messages, avoid you at social events, or even block your attempts to reach out. This deafening silence has a purpose: to make you feel guilty. The ambiguity of their absence, no explanations, just a void, makes you question whether you went too far or should have handled things differently. This form of silent punishment is highly effective because it preys on the emotions of those who struggle with rejection or guilt. Toxic individuals of bad character know that by withdrawing, they leave a vacuum that makes you rethink the confrontation, even feeling compelled to apologize, even if you did nothing wrong. It's a passive but incredibly powerful form of manipulation because it requires no direct effort from them. All the emotional labor is left to you. Beyond this, the distancing also serves as a way to reassert control. By ignoring or avoiding you, these people send a clear message: I decide when or if this relationship continues. This dynamic puts you in a vulnerable position where you might find yourself seeking their forgiveness or trying to mend the relationship, even without any fault on your part. It flips the reality of the situation, where their problematic behavior is forgotten, and the focus shifts to reconciliation. So how do you deal with this tactic? The first step is to recognize what's happening. If someone cuts ties abruptly or distances themselves after being confronted about harmful behavior, see it for what it is: a manipulative response, not a balanced one. Don't chase after them or try to fill the void they've created. Instead, focus on holding your ground and valuing your own boundaries. A helpful mindset is to internalize that their silence or withdrawal says more about them than it does about you. Respond to their absence with composure, thinking, if this person chose to walk away instead of addressing the issue, it reflects their character, not my actions. This perspective helps you avoid falling into the cycle of guilt and insecurity that such individuals attempt to create. Finally, take a moment to assess the impact of their distancing on your life. Sometimes the absence of a toxic person can be a hidden blessing. While the initial silence might feel unsettling, it can also open up space for healthier relationships and your own emotional peace. Remember, cutting ties or distancing themselves doesn't resolve conflicts. It merely masks them. Recognizing this tactic as a form of manipulation is a crucial step toward safeguarding your emotional well-being and affirming that you deserve relationships built on respect and genuine accountability. They seek allies against you. Have you ever noticed that after a confrontation, some people quickly start telling their version of events to others, but in a way that casts you as the villain of the story? This is one of the most common behaviors of evil people when they realize they've lost control over you. They turn to social manipulation, recruiting allies to invalidate your perspective, isolate you, and shape the narrative in their favor. Imagine this. You confront someone about a lie or toxic behavior, and instead of addressing the issue directly, they begin spreading their version of the events. This isn't just an avoidance tactic, it's a calculated strategy to weaken your position and strengthen theirs. The goal is clear: to paint you as the aggressor and themselves as the victim. By doing so, they create a false support network and discourage others from questioning the problematic behavior you brought to light. For people of bad character, the priority isn't resolving the issue. It's ensuring that the attention stays far away from their actions. This kind of social manipulation can be devastating because it creates an environment where you feel isolated and misunderstood. Another key element is how these individuals use the empathy of others as a tool. They know how to tell their story in a way that's emotionally convincing, emphasizing their supposed vulnerability and exaggerating any detail that makes them appear wronged. As a result, they position you as someone who's fighting not just them, but an entire group. This isolation isn't accidental. It's a tactic to make you question your own perception and give up on addressing the issue altogether. How do you handle this situation? First, stay calm and avoid falling into the same game. Don't rush to try to correct everyone who's heard the distorted version of the story, as this can escalate the drama and make you appear defensive. Instead, focus on clear and direct communication with people you trust. Share your side of the story objectively, without attacking the other person. For example, "I understand you may have heard something different, but I'd like to share my perspective so you have the full picture." Additionally, pay attention to those who immediately believe the toxic person's narrative without questioning or seeking your input. This behavior could indicate that they're not genuinely interested in understanding the truth or supporting you impartially. Use this as an opportunity to reevaluate who truly deserves your energy and trust. Finally, remember, this search for allies isn't just about hurting you. It's also a sign of desperation on the part of the bad person. They know they're losing control and attempt to compensate by manipulating the social environment to their advantage. Trust in the power of truth and hold firm to your integrity. Over time, the people who truly matter will recognize the patterns and see who is acting honestly. Your role is to protect your mental health, surround yourself with genuine relationships, and never allow these manipulations to define your perception of yourself. Stay strong, and remember that the truth always finds its way to light. They never genuinely apologize. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you expected a sincere apology, only to receive a vague statement that made you feel even worse? This is one of the most revealing behaviors of evil and bad character people. They simply cannot give a genuine apology. Even when faced with undeniable evidence of their wrongdoing, they avoid taking full accountability. The absence of a true apology isn't just frustrating, it's deeply symbolic. It reflects their inability to assume any kind of responsibility. For toxic individuals, admitting a mistake feels like relinquishing control, and that's something they avoid at all costs. A genuine apology requires empathy, self-reflection, and a willingness to correct harmful behavior, qualities that these individuals often lack or choose not to display. Now, consider the impact this behavior has on you. When there's no acknowledgement or remorse for the harm caused, you're left trapped in a cycle of frustration and doubt. Their refusal to apologize validates their toxic behavior and sends an unspoken message: "I don't care enough to make this right." This stance not only disregards your feelings but also reinforces the power dynamic they're trying to maintain. Even when they do attempt an apology, pay close attention to their tone and choice of words. Empty apologies, designed to end the conflict without resolving the issue, are common. Statements like, "I'm sorry if you feel that way," or "I didn't mean it that way," shift the emotional burden back onto you, leaving you feeling like you're overreacting or being irrational. So how can you handle this? The first step is to accept that you cannot change the nature of these individuals. If they're unwilling or incapable of offering a genuine apology, this says more about their character than about you. Don't expect something they're not capable of giving. Instead, focus on protecting your emotional well-being. A practical approach is to set clear boundaries and maintain your stance, even in the absence of an apology. For example, you can say, "I understand you're not ready to acknowledge what happened, but I need to prioritize my well-being and ensure this behavior doesn't continue." This not only demonstrates your awareness of their toxic behavior, but also makes it clear that there will be consequences. Additionally, use their lack of remorse as a clear indicator of whether they deserve a place in your life. Evil people who avoid taking responsibility show that they're more invested in preserving their ego than in building genuine, respectful relationships. Finally, remember this: a sincere apology is a bridge to healing and growth in any relationship. When that bridge isn't offered, you're not obligated to carry the weight of the conflict alone. Prioritize your emotional peace and surround yourself with people who value and respect you enough to own their mistakes. Recognizing this behavior and taking steps to address it can completely transform how you deal with these situations, saving you from cycles of emotional pain and strengthening your confidence to avoid toxic relationships in the future. Now that you have these tools, it's time to take action. Don't let manipulative or toxic behaviors dictate how you feel or react. Set boundaries, trust your instincts, and most importantly, prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. The 7 signs we explored today aren't just isolated behaviors. They're patterns that reveal a lot about the character and intentions of evil or toxic individuals. Recognizing these signs is like having a map to navigate challenging situations and protect yourself from the emotional harm these relationships can cause. Each of these patterns, from defensive accusations to the inability to give a genuine apology, serves as a clear warning that you deserve to safeguard your peace and distance yourself from toxic relationships. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Simply identifying these signs is the first step toward regaining control and building healthy, fulfilling relationships. If this content helped you see things more clearly or better understand behaviors around you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this information. Together, we can create a healthier and more aware community where everyone knows how to recognize and avoid negative influences. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.